Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Mr. Wickins Reads Varjak Paw, the Outlaw. Varjak Paw, I keep getting that wrong. By S.F. Said, illustrated by Dave McKeen. And we're on chapter 20. I'm sorry about the last chapter, because when I watched it back, I realised that all the dog voices I was doing was so loud, they were distorting the microphone. So, sorry about that. I got a bit overexcited. Anyway, chapter 20. Oh, massive shout out to Adam, who's all the way in Johannesburg in South Africa. Excellent. I'm really glad you're tuning in, and thanks for emailing and telling me how much you're enjoying it. That is brilliant. So here we go, chapter 20. There was a war of... No, let's start that again, shall we? There was a stream of sewage in the centre of the tunnel. There was no way round it. Varjak put a paw down into the thick brown stream. It was sloppy and sticky, and it stank to the skies. He pulled out his paw. It was covered in slime. He tried to close his nostrils and breathe through his mouth, but now he could taste it as well as smell it. He wanted to retch. "Keep going, Varjak," said Jess behind him. "It won't all be like this. Grandma used to say it was well hidden. You had to go away before you get there." Varjak nodded. What was the choice? Was Sally Bones and her gang at large? Compared to her ice blue eye, even sewage seemed inviting. He plunged his paw back in again and squelched forwards through the nauseating wetness. It was dark in there. It got darker with every step. The air grew closer, warmer as they went further in. Soon it was so dark, Varjak couldn't see anymore. He could only feel the sewage splashing in his fur. It was oozing into his skin, bubbling around his legs, getting deeper all the time. He kept walking. It felt like he was going downhill, down into the bowels of the earth. The stream sloshed up around him, soaking the fur on his belly. "Stop!" cried old Buckley. "I can't go no further. I'm gonna be sick." "It will change," said Jess. "Even if it does," grunted Omar. "Kludge was right. This is a bad place, Varjak." Varjak kept going. He was thinking about a room with no light. "What seems true at one moment may not be true the next." "We've come this far," he said aloud. "I hate it too, but we can't stop now." He tried to sound confident, for Jess, for them all, but he didn't feel so certain. The river of sewage just seemed to be getting deeper. They were going further and further down, and it was hard to imagine how it could ever change. Every step brought the brown stream higher. Now the slime was crawling up his neck, the rancid stickiness reaching his throat, almost up to his mouth. And there was still no light, and Varjak began to imagine being swept away on a tide of stinking sewage, drowning in brown slime. And then his paw came down short. Ha ha! His next paw came down shorter. Steps! He'd found some steps. He climbed up them fast as he could. With a sucking, squelching sound, his body came clear away from the sewage, and he was standing on another level above the stream. It was darker than the darkest city night, but far overhead he could see faint shafts of amber light. With a jolt, he realised they came from streetlights, filtering into the sewers through those grills on the ground. They'd come so far underground, the street seemed as high above them as the sky. He looked down again. Below he could see the stream of sewage flowing through the middle of the tunnel. Either side of it there were elevated platforms, like pavements, either side of a road. He was standing on one of these. It was warm and dry, and it stretched far off into the distance. He could make out some kind of chamber up ahead and more tunnels beyond, like passages or alleyways. His heart lightened at the sight. Mrs. Moggs's tales were true. It was a whole city under a city. A secret city, and no one would ever find them here. One by one, his friends squelched out of the sewage up the stairs to join him. The platform was broad enough for them all. They were all filthy and sopping wet. They stood there shaking foul liquid from their fur. Mudcats, muttered Tam. We've turned into mudcats. Who cares, said Varjak. Let's explore. They set off again. Soon the tunnel widened out and they came to an underground cavern. It was made of elaborately glazed brickwork, shiny and beautiful even in the dimness. Its walls curved up smoothly, meeting in a dome. Many tunnels and streams crossed here. Varjak could see them radiating out in every direction. This was a whole world in itself, and they were the only ones in it. Old Buckley was looking around, wonder in his eyes. It's incredible, he said. Mrs. Moggs' tales were true. And there's mice here, said Jess. Can you hear them, Buckley, can you? She was right. Varjak sensed them. Warm, fresh, juicy mice, lots of them. So this was where they came in winter. Thanks to Cludge, thanks to Mrs. Moggs and her tales, he'd found them at last, and they were free for any cat to hunt. No unfair laws down here, no Sally Bones. He smiled and let out a low howl that echoed round the cavern, rippling the underground river that ran through it. What now? Said Omar. 3 guesses, said Tam. Who wants mouse for supper? Fearless Tam's going hunting. Oh, I'm coming with you, laughed Omar. Me too, said Ozzy, joining in. The horrible twin... No, little brother, said Omar. You wait here. We'll bring you something good. Ozzy blinked. But I'm hungry too. You can stay with the Varjak, said Omar. Me and Tam, we're a hunting team. Varjak watched them with a pang in his heart. That was how he felt about Holly. They were a team. Who'd hunt with him now? He felt sorry for Ozzy too. The big cat wanted to go with his brother, but it was clear that Omar and Tam wanted to be alone. Come on, Ozzy, said Jess. Come with me. Let's explore. We might find something better than mice. Nothing's better than mice, grumbled Ozzy, but he let Omar and Tam go. You come too, Varjak, said Jess. And you, Buckley. Buckley shook his head. I'm going to rest, he said, and then I'm going to go back and find the 3 cats and bring them down here. Varjak, Jess and Ozzy headed further into the sewers, through the caverns and along the platforms, lit only by those faint shafts of light. They travelled in a straight line westwards, going deeper all the time. It got warmer as they went. Varjak thought it was probably always warm down here. Why would the weather ever change? Up on the streets it would be snowing or windy or storming, and he'd never know. He felt a glow of satisfaction. This was a fine place to hide. As they walked on westwards, the platform started to slope up again. Varjak guessed they were coming back towards the surface. He could hear the stream of sewage in the tunnel getting stronger, faster, gathering pace. Its level was rising too. Before long they came to the end of the platform. A series of steps led back into the frothy brown sewage. Far in the distance, Varjak thought he could saw daylight, but couldn't be sure. We must be under Sally Bones' territory, said Jess. We've been going west long enough. Sally Bones' territory. Varjak remembered it from the night they'd rescued Jess. The river and the railway bridge and that churning brown froth on the water. Churning brown froth. Maybe that's where the sewers come out into the river, he said. Yeah, said Ozzy. That brown stuff we saw. Varjak nodded. Ozzy wasn't as slow as he looked. He was a cat of few words, and Varjak had never thought too much about him, taking him for granted as a fighting machine, but now he wondered what else went on in Ozzy's mind, what the big cat felt, what his dreams were like. Well, this is as far as we can go without swimming in sewage again, Varjak said out loud. Let's get back and see how the hunting went. They returned to the central cavern. Old Buckley was curled asleep, snoring as loud as any dog. Omar and Tam were giggling. They were in high spirits, and they had a heap of mice laid out before them. Look what we found, boasted Tam. Yum, said Jess, as they settled down to eat. Varjak crunched into a mouse. Its juices squirted into his mouth. The rich flavours sang on his tongue. It was good. It was better than good. There was no taste like it. He ate it fast, and then a second one, and then a third. His face felt warm, and he was filled with the pleasure of food for the first time since he and Holly had feasted in the harbour yard. black and white fur mixing into silver blue, starlight strong between them. No, there was no point thinking about that. It was a lifetime ago, and now it was gone. This was his life now, this underworld, this city under the city, this sewer. He curled up in the darkness on his own and went to sleep. And that's the end of chapter 20. And we all know what happens when Varjak sleeps. Okay, excellent. I will see you on Monday for the next chapter. And until then, have a great weekend and enjoy yourselves and keep the way alive.